Before the sun rose, the kingdom was whole. Its rivers shimmered like woven silver, its markets sang with laughter, and its towers stood tall against a sky painted in soft gold. Children ran through open courtyards, elders spoke in slow, thoughtful voices, and every doorway carried the warmth of a life fully lived. But no one noticed the moment it all began to fade. No one except her. Each morning, as the first light touched the earth, the kingdom vanished. The laughter dissolved into silence. The towers fell into empty air. The streets became nothing more than dust and quiet wind. And each morning, the world forgot it had ever existed. All but one. Neddy opened her eyes to stillness. She lay on a simple woven mat in a place that felt both familiar and incomplete. The air was cool, untouched by the warmth she remembered. Outside, there were no voices, no footsteps, no sound of life beginning again, only silence. But inside her mind, the kingdom lived. She remembered the taste of ripe fruits from the market stalls. She remembered the glow of lanterns dancing in the evening breeze. She remembered faces clear and kind people who spoke her name as though it mattered. Yet when she stepped outside, there was nothing, only an empty stretch of land where something great had once been. At first, she thought it was a dream, a beautiful dream that faded too slowly. But the memories did not weaken. They grew sharper with each passing day, more detailed, more real. She could recall the pattern on the palace doors, the rhythm of the drums at dusk, even the way the river curved gently around the eastern hills. These were not dreams. They were pieces of something lost. Days turned into seasons, and seasons into years. Neddy grew, but the mystery did not change. Every sunrise erased the kingdom. Every morning left her alone, with memories that no one else could share. She tried to speak of it once. She told the wind, hoping it might carry her truth somewhere it could be heard. She spoke to the earth beneath her feet, pressing her palms into the soil as if it might remember. But the world answered with silence. Still, something was wrong, not just in her memories, but in the space around her. One morning, she noticed a faint imprint in the ground, a footprint pressed into the dust. It was too clear to belong to the empty land, and too fresh to have been there long. She knelt beside it, her breath held. The shape was familiar, a step taken by someone who had once walked those vanished streets. She reached out, brushing her fingers against the edge of the print. It did not fade immediately, as all things seem to do when the sun rose. It lingered, just for a moment longer than it should have. And in that moment, something inside her shifted. If the kingdom truly disappeared, why did this remain? That day, Neddy began to search, not for the kingdom itself, but for what it left behind. She walked the empty land slowly, carefully, watching for anything that resisted the morning's forgetting. A mark on a stone, a faint echo in the wind, a shadow that seemed to arrive too late, as though it belonged to something that was no longer there. At first, the signs were small, almost invisible, but they were enough. Each one told her the same quiet truth: the kingdom was not gone. It was hidden. Days turned into a quiet journey. Neddy followed the clues with patience, letting them guide her deeper into the mystery. She learned to listen differently, not just with her ears, but with her whole being. She listened for what did not belong to silence. She listened for what refused to be forgotten. One evening, as the sun began to lower itself toward the horizon, she felt something she had never felt before. A pull, gentle but undeniable. It drew her toward the far edge of the empty land, where the ground dipped slightly, forming a shallow valley. There was nothing there, no trees, no water, no sign of life. But the pull grew stronger with each step. When she reached the center, she stopped. The air felt different, heavier, yet filled with something unseen. And then she heard it. Not a voice, not a sound, but a memory echoing outside her mind. A distant rhythm, like footsteps repeating themselves over and over again. She closed her eyes, and for the first time, the kingdom did not appear in her thoughts. It appeared around her, faint at first, like a reflection in still water. The outlines of buildings shimmered into view. The shapes of people moved slowly, like shadows caught between moments. The air filled with a soft, distant glow. It was not fully real, but it was not gone. Neddy opened her eyes, her heart steady and certain. The kingdom was still here, trapped between what was remembered and what was erased, and she was standing at its edge. The next sunrise came as it always had. The light touched the land, and everything vanished again. But now, Neddy understood. This was not a disappearance. It was a reset. Something was holding the kingdom in a single repeating moment, allowing it to exist but never to remain. And somewhere within that cycle, there had to be a reason. Days passed as she returned to the valley again and again, each time reaching further into that fragile in-between space. The more she listened, the more the echoes began to form patterns. Not random, not broken, but deliberate, like a story trying to be told. And slowly, the truth began to reveal itself. Long before the kingdom vanished, there had been a vow, a promise made not with words alone, but with the weight of an entire people. A promise to protect something sacred, something so powerful that it could not be allowed to fall into the wrong hands. But the promise had been broken, not by many, by one. And because of that, the kingdom was bound to a single moment in time, forced to disappear before the truth of that broken vow could fully unfold. Every sunrise erased the evidence. Every morning silenced the past until only memory remained, and only one person could carry it forward. Neddy. She stood in the valley as the realization settled gently within her. She was not remembering by chance. She had been chosen not to witness the mystery, but to end it. The next time the kingdom shimmered into view, she did not hesitate. She stepped forward into the space between moments, into the place where time held its breath. The world around her grew brighter, clearer, more complete. The figures moved with purpose now, no longer distant shadows, but living forms caught in a repeating cycle. She walked through them, unseen yet present, until she reached the heart of the kingdom. The palace. Its doors stood open, as though waiting. Inside, the air was still, and at the center of it all, she found what had been hidden. A single object, small but radiant, a fragment of light suspended in the air. It pulsed gently like a heartbeat, and within it, she felt the weight of the broken vow, the truth that had been erased, the choice that had led to everything being lost. To break the cycle, the vow had to be restored, but not with words, with truth. Neddy stepped closer, her reflection faintly visible within the light. She saw not just herself, but every memory she carried, every moment the kingdom had lived through her. And she understood what was required. She reached out. The moment her fingers touched the light, the world shifted. The cycle paused. For the first time, the kingdom did not fade. The sunrise approached, but it did not erase. It waited, as though the world itself was listening. Neddy closed her eyes and gave the truths back, not as a voice, not as a story, but as a choice. She released every memory she had carried, every face, every sound, every piece of the kingdom she had held alone. She let it return to where it belonged. The light grew brighter. The air trembled gently. And then, slowly, the kingdom exhaled. The sun rose, but nothing vanished. The streets remained. The people stood. The palace held its place against the sky. And for the first time, the world remembered. Neddy opened her eyes to a kingdom alive in the morning light, no longer fading, no longer hidden, but whole. She stood quietly, no longer alone, as the sounds of life filled the air once more. And though no one knew the journey she had taken, the choice she had made, the truth she had restored, the kingdom remained, and that was enough. Some stories are told, but many are buried in silence. The truth, it always finds a way back. This was just one of the untold African legends. Subscribe now and uncover the next legend.